Morning. This is the 219th meeting of the Audit Committee, Metropolitan St. Louis School District, Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Roll call by the chair.
All right, the record will reflect that trustees Watson, Nicholson, and Fair are present online. Trustees Wilson, Evans, and Wabi are present in the room.
There are no comments by the chair. The internal audit.
Trustee Watson, we do need to get the approval of the committee meeting minutes.
So move. Second.
Okay, so I think that's, I'm next then. So good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. So I wanted to take a few minutes to give you a status update of the previously issued recommendations. I'm going to use this document here because you guys have it. If you go to slide 2, I just want to remind you of kind of what the overall internal audit cycle looks like. As I've told you guys in prior meetings, we're basically auditing, continuously throughout the year, performing engagements, issuing reports. So looking in the top left-hand corner in the slide, you can see usually in spring, April, May, that's when we do a new risk assessment and develop a new audit plan. And we present that to you guys usually in June, July time frame. Now, our audit plans usually kind of overlap each other. As we're finishing one up, we start another. And then at the end of the calendar year, we do some follow-up on the open recommendations to make sure the process owners are following through with the action plans and completing the recommendations basically. So, any questions on that? So let's move to slide 3. Now, since April of 2011, that's basically when we started the current audit program, the plan that we have, the audit function, I should say, in place back in 2011. We have issued 284 recommendations in all. They have implemented 270 of those. So we're at a 95% rate right now. We've been about 90% and above since 2015. It took a few years to kind of get rolling there. We did issue 14 recommendations remain open as a calendar year end. At the start of the period, there was 15 open. We did issue 16 additional recommendations, which brought us to 31, and then the process owners did implement 17 during the year. Now, if you look at the next slide, there's a chart there. You can see the activity across the different areas. Everybody's been doing really a good job of keeping up and following through with their action plans. So you can see, again, as I mentioned, we had 15 to start, 16 more were issued, and 17 more implemented. You see Treasurer has 0 all the way across. Their audits come up in the spring, just so that you guys know. Any questions there? Slide 5. If you go to slide 5, I'll give you an update as to the status and progress of each of the open items, of the 14 open items. Now, these are strictly in alphabetical order by area, so there's no significance to the order here. Engineering has 1 open item that belongs to the process review of DEC. DEC, to refresh your memories, is the Division of Environmental Compliance. We looked at the industrial procurement section of that division. We have 1 item that was issued and 1 item still open. It is around the review and recalculation of reduction or return factors. This is an item that we did expect to take a few years to get fully implemented, so they are on track. To refresh your memory what this means, basically what the district does is they reduce the bill for non-sewer water for certain entities. Calculate a factor for that. A lot of those entities may have cooling towers or irrigation, or some of the water's in the product when they manufacture, that kind of thing. So they reduce the volume charge basically for the water that's not being going down our sewers. So the goal is to recalculate this at least once every 10 years for the entities that have that factor. And they fell behind on that. So the team made progress during the year, but they had internal staff limitations, which kind of slowed the progress. They recognized that shortage, and I did hire a consultant to help shore that up and keep the progress moving. Management expects to have all the required return factor studies, or at least initiated by the end of this first quarter. That would put them in position to have everything caught up basically by the beginning of the first quarter of 25. So basically, the studies take a whole year, so it's not something they can do immediately. It's something that they have to get data for a year's time. So any questions there? Slide 6 is executive management. They have 2 open items. First one has to do with the business continuity disaster recovery engagement, which we issued in May of 22. 2 items were issued, 1 item remains open. That has to do with the review and update of their emergency operations plan, the EOP. The part that needs to be updated as of date is the portions that contain the key contact information. It's really, it's part of the appendices, but it is an important part of the plan in order to test it. They hope this will be addressed at the next directors meeting. That should be this month, and they'll start working on it. Hopefully have this completed by 3/31/24. The second item is business continuity. Again, a business continuity disaster recovery. These are related. Both of the items are related to each other. This is a report that we did in July of 23. One item is open. This has to do with the testing of the non-disaster recovery portion of the business continuity plan, especially the non-systems part of it. If you look at the picture down there, that's the best way I can explain it to you. Business continuity is the whole plan. Disaster recovery is the systems part. Now, systems part has been tested. I think the IT has tested it 3 times already, so they're all on that part of it. So we need to test the non-systems part of it, basically, and that involves testing the EOP. So management, again, will help to have an initial plan for testing developed by 3/31. Again, this will be talked about at the next directors meeting, and then initiate the testing by 9/30/24. Just think of that as kind of a really complicated fire drill, so to speak. It's the best way I can explain it. Any questions? So the next area is finance. They have 4 open items, but they're all related to the collection cycle engagement that we just issued 4 weeks ago. So I'm not going to talk much about that because we just issued it. I do know that a few of the items are partially implemented, but we'll do a full follow-up during the year and come back next year and let you know. Any questions? Slide number 7. Next area is information technology. There's 3 open items there. The first item has to do with the network vulnerability and check penetration audit from 22. Remember, we do this check and penetration audits every year. So we issued 2 items. 1 item still remains open. It has to do with the hardening and encryption for the one specific server. Now, that weak encryption protocol has been disabled, and the server has been blocked off from the internet. So that's the big part of it. The one last piece to this is there needs to be a vendor upgrade to completely close this out. This upgrade is scheduled for the first quarter of 24, so this one should be off the list next year. Next item is check and penetration from 23. That's one we just did in August. There we issued 3 items. 2 items remain open. First item had to do with the security design of the existing title quote system. This kind of involved 2 steps. The first step was just take some initial steps to put like a temporary fix in, and then improve. And then what they did is improve and reconfigure the registration process. They did that, but overall they're going to rewrite the whole program. It's a proprietary system that they developed here. So the original system was written here, and they're going to rewrite the whole thing and implement the appropriate security in the new program. That should be rolled out by the second quarter of 24. So they've been making progress. They just haven't finished it yet. Any questions on that one? Next item is Oracle WebLogic systems. The problem with these was that they're old and out of date. They're basically end of life. So that makes them inherently vulnerable. But they're, in order to protect those, this IT does have very strong network countermeasures to keep those secure. We tested that. We're not able to take advantage of those, if you remember from the audit. The reason these are still running is because we're still running the old payroll system. We're running that simultaneously with the new payroll system. And that will be running until we get to go live with the brand new payroll system. So that they're really, really close with that because they've been running both of them for the last 2 months. So once they're able to go live with the new payroll system, they will decommission these old systems. So that should happen this first quarter. Any questions? All right, so last area is operations. There are 4 items. They all belong to safety. That was the audit we did in December of 22. Now, the first item is the reduction of high EMR, which stands for experience modification rate. To refresh your memory on that, that's what that is. It's a numeric representation of an entity's workers' compensation claims history and safety record as compared to other entities in the same state or the same industries and within the same state. So basically, our rate was really high. In other words, our workers' comp activities were, our history was not good. We want to get those numbers down. Safety record was good. We had a lot of claims. So in order to improve that, we issued the next 3 items as recommendations. So if we improve the next 3 items, the first item will improve. First item is, or second item, so second item is number of safety coordinators, safety program organizational structure. So since we did the audit last in December, they've added 3 coordinators, which is fantastic. So we have a total of 5 right now. At the time of the audit, we only had 2. So they can do a lot more with a full team of safety coordinators to really operate this program properly. They're looking to hire a manager that will supervise the team and also operate as a coordinator out in the field. This is not somebody who's going to sit here and market. Somebody's going to be involved out in the field. And they are in the process of reviewing and improving the overall program structure. Meetings have been held with the director, assistant directors, the managers, the supervisors, all the safety coordinators. They're really trying to overhaul their whole program. Looking to safety manage their overall process, the checklist, the training, the whole 9 yards, basically really trying to revamp it to make it really work and to give a solid program in place. Those improvements were developed and implemented throughout 24. Now, as to training, some of the employees were missing training when we did the audit. So in-person and on-site training has increased. You have more coordinators to provide training. They're having monthly meetings at all sites, which is good. Those had kind of fall off the table when we did the last audit. So now that's fantastic. They're working to utilize, well, I should mention, so since we switched from Oracle to Fusion, our training platform has changed. So now we're using Fusion. So now they're working to leverage the notification procedures in the new system and really learn how to use this new system. So you need to train the managers on how to run reports and so forth for that. So any questions on that? Next page, slide 9. The last area is performance reviews. Now, one of the items we had in the audit was that each individual employee's safety record or their accident record was not being reflected in their performance review. Now, some of the employees, as you can tell by looking at their record, they weren't following their safety protocol. So that should be reflected in their performance reviews. So expectations have been communicated to the managers and supervisors regarding the inclusion of this in the performance review. And they're in their process of writing procedures as a part of their overall safety program for this. And again, they're going to start to leverage the records in the new Fusion system as soon as possible. HR is actually providing the records right now. So in summary, the safety, this is a really big area. It's a large undertaking. They've made a great deal of progress. I think we're really happy with the direction it's taken. We'll monitor throughout 24 and circle back with a full follow-up. But hopefully by the end of next year, that most of these we'll be able to close them. So, any questions? That's all I have. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ty. Next meeting tentative date is January 30th, 2024. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So move. Second.
Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned.
Trustee Nicholasison, we'll be ready to go in just a minute. We'll let you know.
Yes, sir.
Nicholasison, we're ready when you are.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the 250th meeting of the Program Management Committee. Can I get a roll call by the chair?
Yes, the record will reflect that trustees Fair, Nicholasison, and Watson are present online, and trustees Wilson, Evans, and Wabi are present in the room.
Thank you. Approval of committee minutes, December 5th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
There are no comments by the chair. Engineering Department agenda items. Mr. Underford.
Good morning, trustees. Happy New Year. Fairly short agenda this morning. If you have any questions, please let me know. First two items are construction bids that we had this past month. First one is Daniel Boone, Longview Creek I&I reduction. This action will appropriate funds and authorize staff to enter a construction contract. The work to be done will consist of the removal of private inflow sources from 4 private properties and 1 point repair, and the construction of approximately 291 lineal feet of 15-inch diameter sanitary sewer and appurtenances. The purpose of the project is to alleviate sanitary sewer surcharging and building backups and to help reduce inflow into the Coldwater Creek watershed. District received 4 bids on this project. The low bid was from Platten Creek Excavating, doing business as PCX Construction. The bid was below our design estimate, and our appropriation of $600,000, which includes utility relocation and contingencies, is above the budget for the project. Platten Creek has committed to 41% MWBE participation, which meets the 10% goal for minorities and 10% goal for women participation on this project. Platten Creek is, this is their first capital improvement job that they've done with the district. They actually won 2 bids this past month. Before they'll be allowed to bid, they'll be required to complete one of these 2 projects substantially complete before they can bid again. The next project is Outer Ladue and Chipper Storm Sewer. This action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into a construction contract. The work to be done consists of construction of approximately 904 feet of storm sewers, 12 to 30 inch in diameter. The purpose of the project is to alleviate basement and yard flooding at the residence along Outer Ladue Road. The district received 6 bids on this project, and PCX Construction, or Platten Creek Excavating, was the low bid. The bid was below our design estimate, and our appropriation of $375,000 was below the budget for the project. PCX committed to 21.63% MWBE participation, which meets our 10% goal for minorities and 10% goals for the women. And again, this is a job Platten Creek will be required to complete at least one of these jobs before they can bid again.
Rich, real quick, why does I mean, I understand, I guess, why we have policy that you got to do one first. you get the bid on another one. How do these guys get two?
The bids they were basically back to back. So they had submitted the bids before we could say determine that they had actually gotten the bid, they had actually received another bid. So, and this has happened before, and we basically have done the same thing. Had they been like in different months, then we wouldn't have gotten it. So
You would have stopped, you would have
correct. They were so close together. They're not overly large jobs, so we should get a pretty good determination of their performance.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next three items I'm going to take as a block. They're all three for new general services agreement contracts for support services for my engineering staff. They're the general services agreement for geotechnical support contracts A, B, and C. The action appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into 3 geotechnical service contracts. The ordinance will enter contracts with 1 year and 1 option year with the following 3 firms: Geotechnology LLC, Hanson Professional Services Incorporated, and Terracon Consultants Incorporated. Again, for 1 year with 1 option year for geotechnical services associated with the design of projects as needed throughout the district. Services provided a rock and soil analysis, testing, recommendation, evaluation of foundation, slopes, and bedding for projects that are designed by our in-house staff or sometimes for design consultants. Projects will be issued by letter agreement per the individual scope of services. The total amount of each one of these contracts for the first year is $85,000 for all 3 of the contracts. The contracts, there were a total of 5 proposals received for these services, and the 3 firms I identified were selected. All 3 firms have met the MWBE 31% combined goal requirement provided in the policy. Any questions on those?
Wait, the whole package is 85,000 or
85,000 each.
each?
Right. All right, the next item is a general services agreement for sewer and channel design, contract A. It appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter a design contract. This ordinance authorizes the district to enter into a contract for 1 year with 1 option year with KDG, a division of Shive Hattery, for the design of various projects. This project consists of the design of small sanitary combined and stormwater projects needed throughout the district, support of our ongoing internal design effort. This is a firm that will help out when we have smaller designs and my internal design staff cannot get all the projects complete. This project's for a total amount of $200,000. And there were 2 other proposals, so a total of 3 proposals, and KDG was selected. The KDG has met the 31% MWBE participation goal required by the policy. That's a combined, for projects less than $500,000, that's a combined minority and women participation of 31%. The next item is very similar to the geotechnical services. The next 5 I'm going to kind of put together. They're for general services, for surveying services. This appropriates funds and authorizes staff to enter into 5 surveying contract services, contracts A, B, C, D, and E. This ordinance authorizes the district to enter in contracts with Civil Design Incorporated, Prairie Engineers Incorporated, Sabre Incorporated, Vols Incorporated, and Juno Associates Incorporated. The services provided include land surveys, property strip maps, and easements for projects completed either by our in-house or design consultants. Additional general surveying services to be provided are things such as legal research, legal descriptions, topographic and land surveys for district facilities, and other required issues needed by the other departments. Work will be assigned on a project-by-project basis. Each contract will be for $50,000, and they're included into the capital program this year, and there's one option year for each one of these contracts. On these particular contracts, since they're basically self-performed services surveying, there is no MWBE goal, but of the 5 contracts, one of those contracts is actually a woman-owned firm, and one is a minority-owned firm, giving us a total percent for these services of over at 40%. So, are there any questions on these? All right, the next 2 items are requesting board authorized for staff to proceed to condemnation efforts to obtain property rights for 2 projects. The first is the Smith Creek Ladue Road sanitary relief. This ordinance authorized staff to proceed with further condemnation effort, including the filing of all necessary pleadings and documents leading to the acquisition of permanent easement or temporary construction easement on 3 parcels of ground in the city of Creve Coeur. Easements and temporary construction easements are needed to construct the project, which consists of 5,325 feet of 8 to 15-inch diameter sanitary sewers. The purpose of the project is to alleviate basement backups and surcharging in the sanitary sewer. At this time, we've been unable to negotiate those 3 easements. The overall project required 13 easements, so we've acquired 10, leaving these 3 for condemnation. We still continue to talk to the property owners, but if we're unable to reach agreement, we're requesting to go to condemnation. We've got a map that, as you'll put up here, hopefully you'll be able to see that in your packet. 2 of the projects are actually properties owned by the trustees of the Conway Downs Plat 3 subdivision. And our latest on this is that we're currently in negotiations. We do feel like we will be able to, we're just trying to get construction sequencing down with the trustees, but we do believe we will not need to proceed to condemnation. If so, before next Thursday, we'll pull that from the agenda if we get those 2 easements. And then the last is parcel 11. It's a homeowner. We're going through their backyards, and unfortunately, the homeowner had just done some work in their backyards, which included some grading and sodding and put in some trees. So we're negotiating with them to make sure we compensate them for those trees and get it back to where they had it before. So we believe we'll be able to agree on this, but just in case, we're requesting condemnation. Any questions on that one? All right, the next one's the Upper Fish Pot East sanitary relief. This ordinance authorized staff to proceed with further condemnation efforts for permanent and temporary construction easements on 1 parcel, and this is in the city of Ellisville. And again, this easement is needed for project sanitary sewer project consisting of 3,200 feet of 8 to 15-inch diameter sewer and 256 feet of 54-inch storm sewer. The purpose of the project is to alleviate building backups and overcharging in the sanitary sewer. We've acquired 8 of the easements for this project. We just have the 1 left that we're negotiating with the property owner. We've been trading offers with the property owner based on some trees that he has. Again, we do believe that there's a good chance we'll have this easement. We just do not have it in hand right now. We want to keep the project moving forward. That's an individual property owner. Again, we're going between 2 houses. We were able to get easements from 1, but the other one on lot 12 there, we've been unable to acquire. So we think we're going to get it. Just want to keep the project moving forward. Any questions on that one? All right, the next item is a ordinance for linear asset management services. It authorizes the district to enter a contract with a linear asset management service provider. Ordinance authorizes the district to enter into a contract with Aquasite LLC. The purpose of the contract is to provide district staff with a software solution configured to MSD data and needs for prioritizing our capital work on the MSD linear assets. These services and resulting output will form the basis for our rehabilitation program activities going forward. The cost for the services is $359,000 in the initial year, and then there's an annual software subscription for $86,000 for up to 4 years additional for these services. There's no appropriation for this item. This item was in my department budget for the year. This is something we wanted to put in place several years ago. We put in a similar asset management program for our treatment plant assets, and this is simply one that will take our data from all of our inspections and prioritize where we need to do our rehabilitation. We received 4 total proposals on this, and Aquasite was selected for this work. All right, and the following item, the last item is a resolution to renew a contract for inflow and infiltration cost allocation services. Again, it exercises option year 3 of an existing contract with Stantec Consulting. This project initially updated our inflow and infiltration cost allocation for the 2023 rate study that we just completed. We don't anticipate any additional support, but until we get through the election and the rates are put into place, we're renewing this contract through the next year. There's no appropriation for this amount. The district will, the fees for this project are in my internal budget for the fiscal year. Any questions? That is all I have, Trustee Nicholson.
All right, thank you. There is no other business. Next tentative meeting date is January 30th, 2024. Can I get a motion for an adjournment?
So move. Second.
All right, we'll call to order the 298th meeting of the Finance Committee. Can I get a roll call, please?
The record will reflect all trustees are present, with trustees Watson, Nicholasison, and Fair online.
Do you have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting?
Move. So move.
Do you have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Next item is the quarterly financial status report.
Good morning, trustees. I have the next 2 items. I will present the quarterly financial status report. As you're aware, we wrapped up our FY23 audit last month, so now you're going to start receiving updates on FY24 activity. So the update that I have is for the quarter ending in September of FY24. So I'll start with the chart in the upper right-hand corner, which shows our FY24 user charge forecast. Right now, we are forecasting a favorable variance compared to budget of approximately 12.2 million. The bulk of that favorable variance is with our commercial customers. We're projecting that our revenues will be $9.5 million more than what we budgeted, and the residential revenue will be $2.7 million more than what we've budgeted. Moving over to the upper left-hand corner, this shows our FY24 budget forecast for our expenditures. And we have a budget variance that's reflected at $77.8 million unfavorable, and I will talk to you about why that's showing that way. So if you look at the chart which shows our CRRP, which is our capital program, that's showing an unfavorable comparison to budget of 89.2 million. And the reason for that is we have $101 million that we're projected to spend for the incinerator project in this fiscal year that was actually budgeted in FY23. That project was delayed, so we didn't get the appropriations and approval for the board until FY24. So it's a little bit misleading. If you compare our FY23 budget for the capital program to what we actually spent, it was $135 million favorable. So that $101 million was not spent in FY23. It will be spent in '24. Our operating budget is projected to be $10.2 million under, and our debt service is projected to be about $1 million below budget. Okay, moving down to the lower left-hand portion of the graph, you'll see our FY24 debt service coverage forecast. The graphs indicate that we are exceeding our projected coverages that are in the rate proposal, and that is per our bond covenant. So debt service coverage is right now projected to be 3.36 for our senior bond issues and about 2.2 for all in. We have benefited from that because we've been able to refinance debt. We had some refinancings that Tim did a couple of years ago that actually hit in FY24, so that's helped. Those coverage forecasts, it will be a little bit more difficult for us to achieve these kind of levels because the opportunities for us to refund debt is going to be limited with where the current market is in terms of rates, and also the limitation on the ability for us to do advanced refundings. Moving over to the last chart.
Hold on, Mary.
What's yeah? What is in the bond covenants, which I'm sure we've got the most recent one? What is our coverage ratio?
The minimums?
Say again?
The minimums,
The minimum,
what's built
yeah.
in, it's 1.25 for senior, 1.15, so that would be, below those would be default.
Okay.
So we target
1.8.
we target 1.8 and 2.5.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the last chart here shows our total delinquencies and our average collection period. Our average collection period target is 45 days. We are currently at 56 days, and we've been about the mid-50s for the past couple of fiscal years. As Todd indicated in his audit report last month that he presented on our collection process, we do not currently turn off. That collection period of 45 days, that target, is actually an industry target for utilities that do turn off. So without us implementing turn off, it's highly unlikely that we're going to hit that 45-day time period. So are there any questions regarding the status report that I can answer? Okay, if not, I will move on to the next item, which is a resolution relating to interfund transfers of available appropriations. So as part of our year-end closing process, as you can imagine, we book various entries in our books that relate to transfers between different funds. So per our policies and procedures, we are allowed to go ahead and book those entries so that we can close out our year end, but I have to report that back to the board, which is what I'm doing today. So what we are requesting is there's a resolution which would allow us to move unencumbered appropriations and you should have a chart. Stephanie, if you could move to the next page. You'll see a chart which shows those funds that we're moving the unencumbered balances from to those funds that need those balances. And the bulk of this transfer actually relates to claims that we paid for overcharged mains. We had a flooding or a storm event that took place, and so we had about, I think, the net amount or gross amount of the claims was right at about $11 million. Anything over $6.5 million, we get insurance recoveries from, but we have to pay those claims, as you can imagine, and then request that reimbursement from the insurance carrier. So we're required to book an expense for that total amount of claims, and then we get a payment from the insurance agency, and that's booked as a revenue, which offsets that. But so we had about $2.9 million that we needed to move the balances from basically from the bond liability insurance and debt service funds to cover that overcharge main. In total, again, it was $3.4 million of unencumbered balance that we moved from funds that had a balance to those that needed a transfer. We also are requesting approval of a fund balance transfer from our district-wide stormwater fund to one of our OMCI funds, and that was approximately $6,800. So are there any questions that I can answer regarding this resolution? Okay, if not, thank you for your time, and I will turn it over to Tim.
All right, thank you, Marion. I have two items. Oh, one thing I'd like to say too, that chart where we were above the debt service coverage. Another thing that contributed to that is the amount of subordinated debt we've been able to issue, which has replaced senior debt. So because we've issued more SRF and the large WIFIA loan, that's taken the place of going to the capital markets. When we go to the capital markets and sell directly to bond investors, we had a lot of debt outstanding at once, started accruing interest right away. When we borrow from SRF or WIFIA, those are draw programs. So we only pay interest as we draw the debt. So we do not have as much debt outstanding as we originally expected. We have signed as much or more in debt agreements. We just aren't paying interest on it yet because we haven't drawn it yet. So that's contributed to the gap too in the coverage, the favorable coverage variance. Does that make sense? All right, I have two items. The first one is a resolution for investment management services. This is a contract with U.S. Bancorp for investment advisory services. This is to exercise the third one-year renewal option of the contract. Originally, when we signed this contract with them, they were only managing our bond proceeds, and we were paying a fixed rate of $55,000 a year. And on the debt sheet here, it says budgeted was $55,000 for fiscal year 24. That's actually not accurate. We did change the budget for this year, and we changed my assistant secretary treasurer left earlier this year to take a different job, and we have not filled that position yet. So we have outsourced investment management, which is the way we used to do things until we brought it in-house. So we are now paying U.S. Bank to manage the entire portfolio. It's an asset under management contract, meaning it's a few basis points for whatever they're managing. So the budget this year is actually $250,000. That was in the final budget that you approved. We amended the contract earlier this year, so you did approve that budget earlier in the year. Looks like we'll be under that. But this is, so I just wanted to give you that background because this is the first time we're coming back for renewal under the new structure. But they've been easy to work with. They've done a good job helping us navigate the investment landscape. And so I am recommending that we that you approve the renewal contract for US Bank for investment advisory services.
Our investment policy is driven by state law
It's
first.
based off the state. It's very similar to the state policy. Yeah. So they're limited. We are limited in what we can invest in. So, and we're going to look at investments on the next page, but it's basically, U.S. Bonds, agency bonds, and very highly rated commercial paper is mostly what we invest in.
And
They have to follow that investment policy. Yes. And so some of the extra services they provide, we don't really have the staff or the knowledge to do, to vet companies for CP. So they help us with that. They have their own policies, but it aligns with what we need to do on commercial paper. So they kind of let us know if this, despite what the credit rating is, we're limited by credit rating and the amount of time we can invest in commercial paper. But they help us vet the companies and make sure our list is appropriate and that kind of thing too. So with that, I'll move to the operating fund portfolio, which is what we look at every month. I'll start in the upper left. The portfolio is almost 570 million. That's about 23 million higher than last month. We've gotten some bond proceeds and some draws on SRF and WIFIA, as well as we started receiving income tax proceeds. So we have a little bit higher portfolio than what we had in November. Yield to maturity for our portfolio is up about 13 basis points, so we continue to turn over older investments at a lower rate, at higher rates. The benchmark is down almost 40 basis points. That's because market rates have fallen, so that gap's closing a little bit. Slight decreases in the weighted average maturity for both portfolios, but they're both invested in highly rated instruments. You can see our allocation in the upper right. We've got about 45% in U.S. Treasury bonds. That's slightly lower than last month. Federal agency bonds, 36%, almost the same, but slightly lower than last month. And then we've seen an uptick in commercial paper. Usually we can get higher rates in commercial paper. So as the Treasury rates have fallen, we've looked at commercial paper to get a little bit more yield. So that's why you see the changes there. Fund summary in the bottom left. Not a lot of changes there. The increase in the portfolio is really in the operations side, and that's also where you see yield to maturity increase. That increased about 15 basis points over last month. And the maturity distribution in the lower right, we still continue to have more of our portfolio short term, whereas all of the benchmark is in that, almost all the benchmarks in that 1 to 3 year period. We should be able to start pushing our maturity out a little bit because we've had high capital expenditures. We've kept it short and we've been spending down, but now that we've starting to get some extra funds in, we have both the tax receipts as well as we're starting to draw on some of the SRF loans that we've put out there. We should be able to, we won't match the benchmark maturity, but we should be able to get our weighted average maturity back closer to 1 year, which is typically where we are. We're under 1 year now. So look for that in the next, over the next couple of months. Any questions? All right, Trustee Evans, that is all we had for the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, next tentative meeting date is January 30th, 2024. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to wish you a happy new year. Hopefully you brought in the year in an appropriate manner. This is the first Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting for 2024. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, the record will reflect that all trustees are present. Trustees Fair, Nicholson, and Watson online.
Okay, have no comments. There's a discussion by Jason Stockman.
Good morning, trustees, and Happy New Year.
Trustee Wilson, we do need approval of the meeting minutes.
Oh, I apologize. Can I get a motion to approve the committee minutes of
So moved.
December?
Second.
That's okay. Thank you. With no objection, they are approved. Now we can move forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have one item that I'd like to cover, and that's the authorization to amend the original implementation contract with UKG, allowing us to enter into some change orders with them. UKG is our new time and labor management benefits and payroll system that we are implementing. During the implementation, we had identified some additional integrations, both internally and externally, that were required, which were outside the scope of the original contract. So we're asking for authorization to enter into those change orders for up to $45,000. $16,000 of that will be for the additional integrations. Approximately $9,000 will be for data import due to carry over into the new year. And then we're asking for $20,000 for potential unknown contingencies. The additional integrations, along with other work activities, caused us to push the schedule back and miss our deadline and carry it over into the new year. I would like to note that after the implementation, we will still have the option for the 4 one-year extensions available to us. And I'd also like to highlight that this amendment is not asking for any additional money. We're just asking for the authorization to go enter into these change orders. The money will be covered out of our operating budget. Is there any questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason. I think you have the next.
I do. Good morning. I am going to speak to the table that's in the back of your packet. There's also detail sheets that go along with that, but I'm going to speak to the spreadsheet as we go through this. So I am proposing 5 different ordinances. Each ordinance would authorize a contract with a law firm for a 1-year contract, which would begin in July 1st, 2024, and then there would be 4 1-year options at the discretion of the district after that first year. So proposed ordinance 16308 would authorize a contract with Helmick, Hill, and Redder. They would provide general legal services in the areas of liability and human resources. We received very favorable hourly rates from each of these firms, and those rates are identified on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet. Proposed ordinance 16309 is with Quarles and Brady. They will provide general legal services in the area of liability, human resources, and administration. Proposed ordinance 16310 is with Reinierson, Seuss, Schnurbush, and Champion. They would provide services in the areas of liability, human resources, and administrative. Proposed ordinance 16311 would authorize a contract with Thompson Coburn to provide services in the areas of liability, human resources, real estate, environmental, and administrative. And then the last proposed ordinance is 16312, and it would propose to authorize a contract with White, Coleman, and Associates, whereby they would provide services in the areas of liability and real estate. And as I said earlier, these contracts will not take effect until July 1st of 2024. Are there any questions?
Did we
Thank you.
just approve these?
We have general legal service contracts in place right now
Right.
that you all just renewed the final year of those a couple months ago. I am retiring here shortly, so we went ahead and went through this process now so that Todd won't have to deal with it come the spring.
And these are the same firms?
We added a new one, which is Helmick, Hill, and Redder. And then we currently have a contract with Armstrong Teasdale, which we will not, and starting in July. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the agenda. Are there any comments, remarks or comments for the body? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Our next meeting, apologies. The next meeting will be January the 30th, tentatively scheduled for January 30th. So I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.